All right, Sean Payton, Rob, you got something to say. Right now, the talk, Rob G, correct me if I'm wrong, the most of the talk out there is that he may return to Fox for another year, right?
That is correct. In fact, I wish I would have been able to grab the sound, but I was tied up talking to Rob Parker before the show.
What?
He's real chatty Cathy about his new diet. But Jay Glazer was on our very own Fox Sports Radio talking with Jason Smith and Mike Harmon last night. And one thing he said that got a lot of people ears perked up, we had heard for a few days now that Sean Payton, it was looking increasingly likely that he would return to Fox rather than going into coaching. Well, Jay Glazer came out and said flat out, one of the reasons why we haven't heard about him getting a job yet is because, quote, the only fit that would have made sense for Sean is had the Chargers job opened up. Denver job, great ownership. George Payton is a phenomenal GM. You got Russell Wilson. If you could salvage Russell Wilson, you look fantastic. But if you know he's not salvageable, why do you dive in?
Did he feel like, did he say, I mean, maybe according to sources, that Sean thought Russell was not salvageable?
He did not say anything that definitive, but you know, Jay being as plugged in as he is, he doesn't just say things just to say it.
Right.
That sounds good and nice, but maybe people and NFL owners decided they weren't going to get bamboozled by Sean Payton and that they weren't going to pay a king's ransom for a coach that's not worth 25 or 20 or 25 million, whatever the rumored reported number was.
It was 20 to 25 million.
20 to 25 million when the same coaches are making $7 or $8 million with a similar resume. That's probably more like it. And I think it's pushback from ownership, Chris, that's not going to pay that. They're not going to pay somebody more than Bill Belichick. They're not going to pay not only $20 or $25 million a year for a coach. We thought when John Gruden got the 10-year, $100 million, that was lunacy, and you saw how that played out. And he wants $20 or $25 million, and I got to give up first-round draft picks? What? That's a king's ransom. That's reckless ownership. That's bad business. That's why he's going back to Fox. It ain't because he's turning down, nobody even offered him a second interview. That's what was reported by Ian Rappaport. That he didn't even get a second call back, Chris. Why?
It probably is. If he didn't get a second call back, it's because the money he wants.
Am I right? It got to be, Chris. Come on. If you have a chance to upgrade the coaching, I don't care who you have, Chris. If you really thought that Sean Payton was going to be that magical elixir and get you over the top and get you to the Super Bowl, have a chance to win as an owner, you make that move.
Well, I don't know. I mean, because I'm telling you, and I hear you, Rob, about Sean Payton, and I agree. He's a very good coach, but I agree with you that he has been overrated. I mean, you're right. People do talk about him like he's darn near Bill Belichick.
Right. Like he's won 4 Super Bowls and just decided to take a siesta from coaching.
Right. You know how long ago it was, and people talk about it, how long ago it was that Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy won a championship?
Right. That's all people talk about.
It was longer for Sean Payton.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. But
when was this Super Bowl? 09?
Yes. And that's what I'm saying. And Mike McCarthy, that was a long time ago. Aaron Rodgers, you won 10 years ago, or whatever it was. It's been longer.
Right.
And you said that before we talked about it. He had 3 straight losing seasons, 7-9 with Drew Brees.
Right.
This is just saving face, Chris, and I get it.
He's been terrific around those years. You know, he was 11, 12, 13 wins around those down years, but he did 7-9, 3 straight seasons. That is a fact. And look, again, I think he's a good coach. I'd love to see him with Russell Wilson, but Rob, Sean Payton, look, of course, get what you can, right? If they're willing to pay it to you, hey, get it. But him asking for 20 to 25 million, Rob, tells me he's iffy about that job. You know what I'm saying? Because he knows Belichick's making that. He knows he hasn't done what Belichick's done. And if it was a situation he loved, Rob, you gonna tell me you don't think he'd do it for $15 million or between 15 and 20?
Yeah, of course he would. But Mike McCarthy's making $7 million with the Dallas Cowboys.
So then between 12 and 20 or something like that.
But if I'm an owner, Chris, he probably got spooked, right? This dude, what? And I got to give up draft capital, Chris. It ain't just signing him.
Yeah, and wherever he goes, you're going to want to keep whatever draft capital you have. Because you're going to, if it was a great situation, you wouldn't be bringing him in. Other than, say, Dallas.
Exactly, exactly.
And Rob, I honestly have questions about whether or not Sean Payton would want to coach in Dallas. Everybody talks about that's, what he wants. That's the, thing that's out there that he would love to. I think Sean Payton, Rob, is going to want control. And I don't blame him. At least over your team. I mean, you may have a GM you have to answer to. He'll probably want control over the GM too. But at the very least, if I'm the head ball coach, in the words of one Urban Meyer, then I have to have control of my team. I have to have final say on my team. And in Dallas, is he getting that, Rob?
No. Jerry Jones is not going to change what he's done his entire career as he owns the team. It's just not. It's not.
Sadly, but you're right.
It's not going to happen. He's not. He's not. He doesn't care. And under other circumstances, maybe they would have fired Mike McCarthy, right, Chris? Disappointing.
You mean if they knew they could get paid?
Yes. And they know that a lot of coaches don't want to go there. Even when Bill Parcells went there, he knew it was an uphill battle. You remember why Parcells wanted to leave New England, right? He said, if I'm cooking the meal, I want to buy the groceries. You remember that?
Yep.
And he took the job in Dallas anyway.
Yep. Yeah, look, Sean Payton to me, the perfect job for him, and I agree with Glazer to a large degree. I don't know that that's the only good job out there. I don't think so. I think Denver, but again, I get him going to Denver, Rob, and saying $20 million or more. Because, yes, like you said last segment, they have the defense, receivers, all that. But if the quarterback's not right, then you in for some lean years. And so I get him going in there and saying, look, this is what it'll take to get me here, to try to fix Russell Wilson. Yeah. But if the Chargers were open, I think he would take that for less.
Yeah, only issue here is if Brandon Staley doesn't get fired on that game, what's going? So if they make the playoffs next year and they lose, they can't lose as bad as they lost this past year. So they just lose, and it's not an epic meltdown or anything. Then it'll just be, we made
that's improvement.
Yeah, well, right, Chris, we made the playoffs again.
I'm gonna be honest.
Who's firing a coach that made the playoffs 2 years in a row?
If I was running that team, I may have fired him already, but I'm saying if he's there, it'd be one more year. And if we don't see improvement, like deeper in the playoffs, they play the Chiefs tough. So I was going to say playing Kansas City tough, pushing them. But really, like, Rob, they should, why can't they be in the tier with Cincinnati, Buffalo,
and Kansas City? They should. They got the quarterback. Remember that? I mean, they talked about what kind of team they are, and he has 100% belief.
Yep.
And his QB, and he's going to do, whatever. I don't care what people say. I'm going to give the ball to my quarterback. I'm going to do all whatever, this and that and all that other stuff. Talked a big game, and when it came down to it, he still kicked the extra point.
Yeah, I mean, so look, maybe that's the thing. It's Sean Payton. We had a caller earlier say D'Amico Ryans should sit out a year. Sean Payton really does have that advantage, Rob. Because his name's not going to go anywhere.
Well,
if he goes to Fox for a year, makes good money, whatever it is, I'm sure it's in the millions, and he makes money.
It ain't Tom Brady money, but
right. You can live off of it. Let's put it that way. Right?
And here's what he has going for him.
Next year, see if there's better openings for him.
The only thing he has going for him is there aren't that many guys Chris, who aren't in a wheelchair or 80, who are walking around with a Super Bowl trophy in their back pocket. Like that. That's
You're a made man.
That's his trump card. Like you could talk about anybody else and these other coaches who maybe had one chance, Chris, and it didn't work out or whatever. But that's what he's holding on to. But it ain't worth $25 million, and that's
and where he won it too.
Right.
That's the thing too. He won it in New Orleans, which we know.
And I get it. They were the Aints. They were the Aints,
Yep.
and people wore paper bags to the games. I mean, we were growing up, Chris. We saw it. I used to watch the highlights and saw people in paper
they were
bags.
a joke. Yeah, they were a joke.